I am Matthew McIntyre, or Matt McIntyre. I'm 60 years old, and I like to say that I am a follower of Christ, not always perfectly, not always good, but I am a follower of Christ. Sometimes I'm hanging on, sometimes I'm right next to him, who's cleverly disguised as I'm a father of 4. I'm a grandfather of 1, coming up to be 2. Married for 33 years, and God uses me as a business owner. He uses me as a friend, an encourager, an exhorter, and a son, a brother. I'm a little bit of everything. That's who I am. A year ago, I was on my deathbed, and I'd gone 6 months with sleep deprivation. I was on 11 pills to try to sleep. I was down to 160 pounds. Today I'm about 205. I mean, my wife jokes, not emancipated, emaciated. I always get my word, she cracks me up. She says, yes, you've been emancipated, honey, but you were emaciated too. So I have to get my words right. And I'd really like to share that, because that was the most beautiful thing, where I was completely helpless. And I liken it to the paralytic man. His friends are carrying him on the mat. He can do nothing. And they take him up the stairs, cut the hole in the roof, and lay him at Jesus' feet. And Jesus says, your friend's faith has made you well. And that's what happened to me. So I'd like to share that, because I think so many of us are we're on the goal line, and we're getting ready to go in, but we think we're on our own 1-yard line. And they just need someone to tell them, no, that's the enemy lying to you. You think you're 99 miles away. You're an inch from going over. They just need that little push. So I'd like to share that if I could.
Yeah, please.
I moved down to the Metroplex when I was 18 years old. My brother, Michael, who taught me how to make money, he was getting out of the military. We came down here. I think it was 4 of us or 5 of us in a 1.5 bedroom studio out in the village. Worked at a McDonald's between a pool hall and a topless bar. Learned a ton about business. I was what they call a 10-to-1 cook, or I was on the 10-to-1 grill. That job at McDonald's, you want to talk about the Lord saying, don't despise small beginnings. That job has probably made me, Adam, $20 to $30 million. Never made more than $6.35 an hour. I learned business. And I learned how to get along with people that were different than me. So that was kind of a blessing from it. But then I bounced around, got going, started making some really, really bad decisions. And I didn't understand God's ways were better than my ways. I kept trying to short circuit it or game the system. And one bad decision after another, it led me to be divorced. I had a young daughter, and I was a bum. I should have been imprisoned or been dead. Just a bad guy. Long story short, I burned all of my bridges. I'm out of couches to surf on, and family takes me in. A young man, David Seibert, and his wife Melinda Seibert, just godly people. Maybe 4 years older than I was, maybe at the time 3 or 4 years older than I was. They took me in, had a little house over in East Plano, had a 1-year-old son. So about every Sunday they would take me into church, Baptist church, loving church, preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. Some of this was new to me, some of it was foreign to me, but it was all weird to me, because I didn't understand why these people were trying to help me. I didn't have anything, and I kept thinking, what are they doing? And so about 3 months into it, David, who I think at the time was a deacon at this really fast-growing Baptist denomination, lays out the gospel for me and asked me if I wanted to give my life to Christ. And I said no, because I like to have a cold beer every now and then, and I know you Christians don't drink. And I don't think David ever drank or then, since, or but he kind of laughed and he shook his head and said, what if I told you can still have a cold beer every now and then and come to know Jesus? I said, dude, I'm in. And so it started an incredible ride. I'm always amazed at when people say, man, the Christian life's boring. I don't know what Christian life they're living, or I don't know what Christian life they've experienced. But I've always thinking, I can't remember the guy's name. I think it's Erwin McManus. I love him. He was a pastor out in the inner city Los Angeles, wrote some great books. but I'm paraphrasing him now, probably badly. Basically, he's saying, look, if the same God who raised Jesus from the dead, who parted the Red Sea, brought Lazarus out from the cave after 3 days of being dead, and all that, the same God that did that is in your heart, how can you not be different? How can you not be changed? How can it not be a wild ride? But a cool story I'd like to share with you is, it wasn't cool when it happened. I've been on mission trips all over the world. I've been to Africa twice. I've been to Honduras. That was a funny deal. We almost got killed in downtown Honduras. It was funny now. It wasn't funny then, but God saved us in San Pedro Sula or something. I've been to Cuba. I've been to Russia. I've been to Latvia. I've been to China, and I've been in North Korea, all on mission trips. The North Korean trip is great if you want to lose, about 12 pounds in 7 days. I'll take you out there, and you'll also come back with a great appreciation for God and His provision. But Latvia, I've been several times. A little country just outside of Russia, and there's a little place called Talsi Christian School. And so I think it was October of 22. I'm out giving a leadership conference to these high school kids in Talsi, and I think it got real demonic real quick. I started developing sleep deprivation real bad, and that was in October of 22. Fast forward, during Thanksgiving, I couldn't function. My children were over, I was dropping weight. I had just no joy, and I'm a guy generally full of joy. Still couldn't sleep. Christmas was just, I was a zombie. About the middle of January of 23, I finally collapsed in the foyer at our house. I hadn't slept. Next thing I know, my wife and friends, my brother comes over, and they're taking me down to Presbyterian Dallas, and they're trying to sedate me. And I think it took about 6 or 7 people. I ended up in the hospital for 17 days. Very difficult period. Complete darkness. Utter darkness. Got out of the hospital, my wife picked me up. Got back home, probably early February of 23. Went to a lot of well-meaning doctors. They did their very best. I ended up being on about 11 pills. And I couldn't, and I remember, my wife begging me, pleading. They'd have counselors, and they'd have these therapists come over, try to take me out and do all sorts of stuff. Put my face in ice water and have me walk on the grass with my bare feet. And they're all well-meaning people trying to do it. I wasn't having it. I stayed in that bed and just stared at the ceiling. I'd wake up every day from about 3 hours of sleep that was pill-induced, and wake up and pray for sundown. Could not get out of bed. I would spend typically 22 to 23 hours a day in bed. Went all the way down to about 160 pounds, which is really gaunt for me. About probably 45 pounds less than where I'm at normally. My feet would start getting numb. I think I was getting, I was dying. This goes on. Really, it started in October, and just utter darkness. And so come about, I think late April of 23, maybe early May, I got in the car, I got up, had my sweatpants that would barely hang on to me. I kind of had, everything was baggy. Got in my car and went for about a 5-minute drive. And I came back, and my wife, who is just a saint, this woman is just a warrior. She's dealing with me. Her mother had a stroke. It's just, it looks bleak. I mean, we're going under economically. We're going under, I'm dying. I'm the leader of the family. I'm the leader of the business, I got nothing. I'm dead. So I go for this car ride, come back. She says, where'd you go? So I just went for a ride. And I don't think I'd driven in probably 5-6 months. And she said, what'd you do? I said, I listened to music. And she started crying. She started sobbing. And then that was probably the end of April. Shortly after that, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell her or anyone. I cut my pills in half, and nothing happened. And I started sleeping a little more. Fast forward a couple weeks later, about early June, I think it was my wife's birthday, and the excitement of the day, I was coming alive. I could see color again. I could get out of bed. I just didn't take any of my medicine. And I remember vividly, my wife's birthday was June 8th. We had a good day with the kids and my wife. And about a week later, I went to the doctor. And he said, well, you look fantastic. He said, what do you attribute this to? I said, Jesus Christ. He kind of looks at me and he says, well, I think we can taper your medicine down a little bit. And so I cleared my throat and I said, well, I'm off the medicine. And he didn't like that. And he said, well, who told you to do this? And I thought, oh man, he's going to have me admitted. I said, I think the Lord told me to do that. I said, before you say anything, I've driven friends down to the ER room who've thought the Lord told them to get off their diabetes medicine or their high blood pressure medicine. I said, and so he slams his laptop down, calls his nurse in, and starts going through a series of questions. Do you have this side effect? This side? No. He's looking at me, he says, okay, I want to see you again in a week. A week later, I go in and see him, and he's going through these battery tests again. I said, nothing. And so we're joking, and I'm telling him, giving him stock market tips, and we're talking about this, that, and the other thing. And he says, what do you attribute this to? I said, doctor, there's a scene in the Bible. There's a man who's paralyzed. And I said, back in biblical times, there's not ramps, there's not, vans that, you're done when you're paralyzed. You are finished. In fact, a lot of parts in the world, you're finished. The man's friends carrying him on the mat. Jesus is this rock star. The blind are seeing, the deaf are hearing, the dead are coming back to life. Imagine the commotion. They can't get in, and they're trying to get their friend to Jesus. I said, doctor, what they did is they literally went up on someone's roof with the man. Think about what it took to do that. They get on the roof, they cut a hole in someone's roof, and then they laid the guy at Jesus' feet. And the scripture says, Jesus told them, your friend's faith has made you well. Get up. That's what happened to me. And I had this run. The Lord healed me. And then he would wake me up almost every morning, 4 o'clock, 4:37. I would get up, spend an hour with him, and I just had energy to burn. No medicine, no nothing. And I cannot explain to you where it went from the darkness to the light, but it went almost like that. And the only thing I can think of, tens, hundreds, I don't know, maybe thousands of people praying, interceding for me. And the Lord heard it, and the Lord said, okay. That's the only thing I can think of. And the other thing I think is maybe the Lord, I look at Job, and one, the Lord allowed it, which is hard for us to understand. The Lord allowed it. Two, Job did commit a sin. And everybody says, well, he was blameless. No, he wasn't. Look in the scripture again. Job said, that which I had feared had come upon me. I think I feared losing things more than I feared losing the Lord. I didn't go into it, so we were, the business was on the verge of bankruptcy. My wife and I had everything pretty much in the business. And, life's not all about money, it's not, but, it's kind of important. I can tell you, another miracle. Our business normally should run with a minimum of about $500,000 or $600,000 in a checking account. When I got sick and when I went under, we were down to about 100,000. Today it's $1.7 million. I mean, the turnaround, you can't attribute it. And people will say, well, what changed? What happened in sales? What happened? I said, the Lord happened. Yeah, but and even well-meaning Christians, well, yeah, but I don't know what to tell you. Take it up with the Lord. He did it, and I can't tell you how he did it. And here I'm a guy who's pretty good at what I do. I can pretty much tell you, the Lord's given me a mathematical brain. I can pretty much tell you if I pour X, Y, Z money into marketing, it'll generate sales, which 1 plus 1 equaled 1.7 million. I don't know how he did it. I have no idea. I know the enemy tried to take me out, and I know the Lord resurrected me. That's all I know. And I can't, I don't even know what prompted me to get up and move to the car and turn on and listen to spiritual music. I don't know. Today, you know, so I'm a year removed from being dead spiritually, physically, emotionally, and financially to here I am. And so that's kind of been my ride. It's been, and then, and I want to close it out with you. Go back to the guy who saved me, that Jesus used to save me, David Cyber and Melinda. I told you they had a 1-year-old boy at the time, and think about the risk they took. They had nothing, and that's the other thing. We always think we have to have all this money or all this. They had nothing, and they took me in and changed my life, my wife's life, my children's life, my grandchildren's life, forever. So this kid calls me up. He's graduating from Baylor or something, and he's going to go. Him and his wife, young wife, are going to go and share the gospel at LSU, where a lot of kids are struggling with alcohol. And so he's telling me, so my wife and I go out with him, and he's giving me his whole pitch. I said, son, how much are you short each month? And he says, at the time, he was like short $500 a month or something. I said, we're in. We're going to take care of it. He looks at me. I cut him off at his pitch. He said, wow. I said, you don't remember this because you were only 1 year old. But your mother and father were the ones that took me in and led me to saving. Adam, I'm telling you, and I know you know this, and I hope your listeners know this. When you give it all to the Lord and say, hey, here it is, take it, get ready. It's not a boring ride. It's 6 Flags, baby. And sometimes you're hanging on and screaming, and sometimes you might pass out, but you'll get there. And so that's really all I got to say. And I really appreciate you letting me come and share the little bit of my story.